I can't say why right now.
We're on the air, but we can't tell you why we're laughing. This is US Fan TV. I need to check in with you right now.
Indeed. Ding
We have a
ding.
we have a game, a match on
Indeed.
Tuesday in
Monday,
Chester.
right?
Is it
Monday.
Monday?
I believe it is Monday.
Is it? All this time I had in my head that I'm confirming.
That's the
You're
28th,
right.
right?
It's Memorial Day. All
The
right.
day of memorials.
Interesting. All this time I had in my head it was Tuesday, but it's Monday. So I'll have to think about what that means for us.
Will we also play with those weird camouflage numbers on
That's a good question.
Memorial Day?
Here's my question for you, though. Okay, so we have a game on Monday. I was wrong all this time. It's Monday. It's Memorial Day. It's not a real game, but it's a game that contains Christian Pulisic. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being Deuce is about to score after 30 seconds against Ghana to start the World Cup, and 1 being Harry Kane weighs in on
Whether or not he scored?
world politics or something. Where are you on your level of excitement for this game?
About a 4. Um,
You know what? I'm 4 or 5 as well, and that's a lot more than I was for the March and definitely the January. So, and then that Portugal thing that we did in November or whatever. I'm kind of interested. That's saying something.
yeah, I mean, it. I'm interested because of the players who could potentially see the
Right.
field. Um, and I don't know, it's the first perhaps hint, peek at what we might see in like a year's time. That said, it's only Bolivia. We know the roster is going to change again in a few days before the other friendlies, and there's still not. You could say there's a competitive game in a year, but yeah, I'm still not that excited about the Gold Cup even. Other than we know the first game's nearby, so we're going. Nashville's in it at some point, so maybe we'll go there too. Um, I just it's not enough to make me go, oh God, yes, absolutely. Like I'm probably going to a baseball game earlier that day. I'm not even like going to try and find a way to make it to a viewing party, probably.
And would there even be one? I mean, we're being honest. I don't know that there'd be a huge turnout for.
I assume there'll be a few people, but yeah, I'm not expecting a large turnout. Most of the places I think that that go watch them probably won't. It's just not.
Being the holiday and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
being that, yeah,
holiday and
it's not a World Cup tune-up game.
it's not a
As we,
sales game.
yeah. It reminded me of the time that you and I were the only people at a bar in Milwaukee to try to watch the U.S.
I've
Not all
literally
that
been
long
the
ago.
only one. I've literally been the only one at times.
And then you got that question. I think the Onion did an article on it. Is the man here really a soccer fan, or is he just staring at the TV because he's alone? Um,
I
but
just
yeah,
hung out with the bartender, and it ended up being a former bartender who eventually came in and like sat down and watched the game too.
you know, it'll be fine. It'll be fun to see some of these guys. I'm interested to see, Josh Sargent. Obviously, I think a lot of people are. Um, it'll be nice to see Pulisic back on the field. It'll be cool to see him play in his hometown. I haven't heard about ticket sales, but I hope they're doing well. The LAFC Dortmund friendly it wasn't terrible, but I feel like it should have been better.
It was kind of a letdown. I
Yeah.
mean, all in all, we should have just gone on the air. Like,
You know what? We really should have. I mean, like I told you, 7 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, no one's scoring in this game. And I went to bed. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I'll check in the morning, and we should have just done the show. We held out because it was Pulisic more than anything, but nothing happened,
who,
and
didn't even play the full game, which was to be expected considering he is going to go play for the US. And they were calling it the last game of the season for them, uh, which kind of made me laugh. It was absolutely just the first game of their summer. Like, it was guys who basically aren't going to a World Cup. Uh, it's a coach who's probably gone already now, who's on his way out the door. Um, They were about to go on summer break, and they're not going to be back for a month or two. So, they clearly weren't trying. They were good enough and had the skills enough. I was kind of surprised actually at the quality of the uh, starting 11 that they put out.
That
But
was interesting. Yeah.
like, I'm not really expecting to see that in whatever it is, a month and a half or something when they play like Man City and Chicago. I do not expect to see.
All we know they'll play Pulisic.
I
If Pulisic
assume
is still
if Pulisic is still there,
there.
I assume he's playing.
Yeah, I mean it's
That said, I'm not expecting to see like De Bruyne or somebody for for Man City.
yeah, I don't think Pep does that, but it definitely you will not see anybody who advances far in the World Cup, and
Yeah,
Belgium probably will. So, um, yeah, it's I don't expect to. I expect to have fun grilling out and kicking the ball around the parking lot and maybe seeing Pulisic. That's about all you expect of those things.
yeah.
But whatever, it's something to do in the summer. You guys excited about Champions League on Saturday? I am actually very excited about that. So I just don't know if I can stomach Ronaldo not doing anything again in a final and then posing to
And
be
then
totally
somehow
fearless.
like
Yeah,
winning it all in the last 3 minutes. Um, I, I'm I'm less excited than I could have been, of course, because it is two teams that one I'm quite vocal in the fact that I do not support. The other I just don't support. Um, Ronaldo, to me, it's more a matter of bad luck that he plays in the same age as Messi because it's like it's not to say I'm not in awe of the guy. It's just that
you did buy
every
his
time you
blanket.
give him a compliment, yeah, every time you buy his blanket, someone believes or 10 people believe that somehow he's better than Messi, and he's not. I don't care. He could
People
win.
are gonna say
He
it
could
right
win.
now. Yeah.
He could win all the Ballon d'Or for the rest of time. He'll never be better than Messi. He's not. So I don't like having to have that conversation all the time. That said, I'm still in awe of the guy. He's still amazing. I mean, he's still amongst the best players I've ever seen in my life and amongst the best players to have ever played the game. So he's still phenomenal. It's still exciting to watch him. Mo Salah, even playing for Liverpool, I have to say, has been amazing this season. There are I kind of have to say Firmino's pretty damn good for Liverpool in terms of like guys that even I have to kind of say are genuinely good.
It's difficult for you
There,
to talk positively about Liverpool in
it
any way.
is, it is, and I notice now that I've just said two positive things about Liverpool and only one about Real Madrid. Real's just loaded with guys. It's like you look up and down that lineup, and it's all guys that pretty much I would be putting on like I do to geek out for a moment, I guess. I do actually maintain a spreadsheet of like the best players I've seen in my life, like where I saw them, what happened in the game, whatever. Basically, anytime you see Real Madrid, you're pretty much marking down
Yeah.
all 11 or all 14 or however many got into that game. You're pretty much notching all those guys on that list because they're all incredible.
Funny story
Uh,
about that spreadsheet, real quick. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I texted you. You know, we did see Harry Kane when Tottenham played in Chicago against the Fire a couple years ago. Was he on your list? And you're like, no, you weren't even interested to, because like there was a point where a few years ago we realized that we saw Robert Lewandowski before he even went to Dortmund
true, true, true.
when he
Yeah.
played for Poland and Chicago. And we
Yeah.
didn't. I'm like, it was not something
We didn't know who
we
he
didn't
was,
know at the time.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was cool when we realized that we had seen him, that even though we didn't know, but Harry Kane was
Much like I saw Frank Lampard play as like a 16-year-old or something like that
ooh,
for West Ham.
pedo. All
I
right,
would be fine. Binary, I would be just fine if Messi came to retire in MLS. And if he comes to MLS and people don't buy every single ticket to every single game he ever plays, then we as a nation have failed because that is for fools.
we've already
If
failed.
he if he comes to you, I can't imagine. I'm sorry. I recognize that clubs are in this as a business. I can't imagine that any club would ever I can't imagine Barcelona would let him leave for anything. I don't care if he's coming out in a walker at 45. if he wants to play, I think you find a way to stick him out there. And I realize that in 15 years, he won't be good enough necessarily to play for Barcelona, but he'll always be Messi. There'll always be something. And to me, that's like the one thing that I don't understand about the rest of the world that I actually think the U.S. does a little bit right in terms of when there's a really, really, really great player, like your team's greatest player of all time, you don't let them go. We hold on to them in the U.S. Most of the rest of the world kind of lets them go, especially as they get older. And, that's how Wayne Rooney plays out his years. Oh, I went back to Everton. Oh, I'm going to MLS, maybe. Thierry Henry, I'm going to Barcelona. I don't understand to some extent why you let that player go at that point. I understand it's about the money. I get the business reasons for it. There is a part of me that says you do it for the fans and you just let them finish out their days and be essentially a god to those people.
I'm trolling the Insta right now because I wasn't listening to you.
I'm preaching the gospel. You're damn right, zero anonymity.
I made note that Jeff Cameron is in Chicago.
Ding, ding, ding.
Is he coming to MLS? Is he coming here? I would imagine yes is the answer because Stoke got relegated, which I'm still happy about. No offense to Jeff. I like Jeff, but I can't stand Stoke.
Fuck stuff,
Yeah. I hope Stoke never ever makes it back to the Premier League ever again.
Yeah. And if you guys have not seen the troll job, I'm just going to pretend as though it's true. I don't know if it's true, but that someone did at that Stoke final match where they got dumped. Supposedly it's an Arsenal fan. They got the tickets off Facebook. If you guys have not seen it, look it up on Twitter or Facebook or just on Google. It is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
It is good. Did Jeff Cameron coming back here? I mean, I don't know that we're going to see him with the national team anymore, but it feels like the right time, honestly. I mean, he kind of ran its course in the Premier League, and rather than play in the championship, I think at this point in his career, what is he, 32? Is that right? I'm guessing right around there.
I think 32 is right. Yeah.
Maybe it's time to come back here and he'll probably, because of name recognition, make some dough. So yeah. And I honestly, I would love to see him on the Fire. He'd get all angry. He'd yell at some people.
Maybe when he retires in a few more years, he would come back and say terrible things about his coach.
Whatever, man. Keep it interesting. Pulisic said he had no problem with Jeff, though, and chemistry was not the issue.
And said that he felt like Cameron did some good things to kind of teach him about being a professional international player.
Yeah. Which makes me like Pulisic more because he's not, not only is he, a lot of the guys just stayed quiet. The Bradley contingent just kind of stayed quiet about the whole thing. But there were the open Klinsmann supporters, and Jeff was among them. And then there were the professionals, and it seems like Pulisic is among that. By the way, the people who think that there's so much revisionist history going on with Jurgen Klinsmann's time as coach, like the people, I don't know that they were watching the same thing we were watching. I like Jurgen a lot, not only as a person, but I think he would have been, after 2014, a fantastic technical director. Yeah. But those teams were a disaster on the field, technically. Like we lost a Gold Cup where we weren't even competitive. And then,
lost a Gold Cup and then lost the play-in game too.
Yeah. And then 2 years.
I understand where he approached that Gold Cup as, we don't have to win this, so we didn't try. Having said that, that whole Gold Cup was rigged. Like, all we had to do was half-ass it, and we could have at least made the final, which is probably true most of the time, but that one in particular. Anyway, then we didn't even show up to that game against Mexico. No. That would have been the Confederations Cup game.
And then
was the Confederations Cup game.
You always see it differently in person, especially I think with soccer, where you can see the whole field, whereas you don't see everything on TV. And what we saw in Columbus from the end line was a very, very confused team. It was not a Mexico's tactics were blowing our tactics out of the water. It was like we didn't know what our tactics were.
Yeah.
And so Klinsmann, while big picture had great ideas and still does, and seems like a cool dude. And I would like, I'd love to talk with him. As far as a head coach, just the coaching the first team, the full national team squad needed to go. It needed to be done. Like I'm not saying Bruce was any better because he certainly wasn't, but at least Klinsmann's push for discomfort and creating chaos and those sorts of things that he thought would make individual players better ended up severely hurting the team as a unit. And that's what killed us in the end. We could not recover from that. And so I think, yeah, he made some individual players better, but he did a lot of harm too. I'm still glad we had him as coach. I would do it all over again. I think, I'm not shitting on him here, but there's people on Twitter who are like, everybody liked Jeff or everybody liked like Klinsmann, but no, you don't. Did you not see this?
It's Twitter, so it's.
Yeah, I know. I should never listen to these idiots.
Yeah, it's like everything else. People just have to be angry about everything, or just have to be in opposition to something. Klinsmann had plenty of good things about him. He also had plenty of bad things about him, and that was the problem with him as a coach. He wasn't consistent. So we could have peaks that might have been higher than we had under Bradley or Bruce, say, the first time, but we also had valleys that were below both of them.
And if you read Das Reboot, the same things were being said about him 10 years before as German national team coach.
It's because, he has this idea that to some extent, I guess you could say it's a bit Wengerian in that you take your best players and you go do your thing, kind of figure it out for yourselves, which works when you have the best players possible. It works if you have Barcelona and you just go, yeah, you guys just figure it out. Just kind of go play. When you don't, you have to figure out a system in which those players fit into something. And they can, players by themselves can't always figure out how they work best together. Sometimes they need someone who goes yeah, but if you move here, then he'll slide in here, or she, if we're talking about the women's team, they'll slide in here and then you can overlap and your talents mesh. And once in a while that just happens magically amongst teams where it just kind of it's a natural thing and it just falls into place. For the most part, though, it takes a good manager to control that. And in that regard, he wasn't. He had great ideas, and I think the points that he was trying to fulfill were excellent. I think they're still good. If not for him being a coach and then having failed him and fired, I still think he would be a great technical director or maybe the GM for the men's team right now. He might actually be the perfect guy for that. But in a sense, we ruined it because we stuck him in as a coach when he wasn't ready for it. Which goes back to the argument, the discussion you and I were having about Mikel Arteta as Arsenal's coach. But anyway, that's a different subject.
Anonymity actually has a serious comment here for a moment. Right below, you heard it here, Chris likes young hookers. Says Klinsmann's had a good career, though. What the F has Arena done? Arrogant for no reason. Yeah, that drives me nuts about Arena. Arena's arrogance right now, like the smugness that comes off that dude. No, you failed too, miserably.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. The one thing I will say, when you compare playing records versus coaching records, I don't think that's a fair comparison because there's so much. I don't think Messi will ever be a great coach. Ronaldo may actually be one of those guys who changes that. I'm not sure Zidane is a great coach. I think Zidane is just in a great position. Here you got the best team effectively that you could have, and now you get to kind of go, do some things. Zidane is maybe a little bit more likely in that he was a thoughtful player, which is really what I think Ronaldo is as well. Ronaldo has the brains of a player who's even better than Ronaldo is. Messi, I think, is just so much better than everyone. He doesn't necessarily, I don't know that he can necessarily understand why he's better, so he can't necessarily translate it to help other players understand it. That's where I think players who are sometimes good but not great succeed as coaches where great players fail. Because they understood, okay, this is how I take my little bit of talent and make it a greater amount by doing these things right. And if you don't understand how you do it, if you just do it naturally, you can't necessarily teach someone else to do it it's really really hard to explain to someone how to do something that, like, how do you teach someone to breathe? I don't know. I just do it.
Yeah.
And so in that regard, I could see where, um, well, I don't think it's fair to say like, but Klinsmann was a better player. Sure, he was a hell of a lot better player. Bruce has what, like two caps for the U.S. and they're from essentially 50 years ago. Um, at our worst period in our history as a national team. So yeah, as players they don't compare. As coaches, though, I mean, one of them, a possibly rigged, a blown game, blown calls versus Germany in
Almost, yeah, that's
2002.
almost the semifinal there.
Yeah, we are inches away,
And
a
to be
correct
fair to
call
Bruce,
away.
that was my favorite US win of all time. The one before the Dosa Cero in
Yeah,
Korea. So yeah, yes, Hunter,
exactly.
Javi
Yeah.
Alonso will be a
Zlatan
great
can't teach you how
manager.
to Zlatan. There's no way. Zlatan will never be a good coach. He might be a great technical director. Actually, no, just a great figurehead of a program. Like Sweden should just turn him into, I don't know, dancing Zlatan. And he just goes out and he tries to get people to come play for Sweden because he goes like, yeah, but I'm Zlatan. And you do it because if you had some kind of Swedish heritage and he showed up at your house, it was like, you will play for Sweden now. You'd be like, yeah, now I kind of want to. Like, I don't think you could help it, but he'll never be a great coach. I mean, that's the one thing I'll say. I won't say the guy could like fail at many things, but I will say I don't think he'll ever be a good coach.
I did tell you I was talking to a woman from Sweden that I know, and she made it a point to tell me that we're not all like that. He's not typical Swedish. I'm like, no, we know, we get it. Trust me.
We like, it's okay. We really like him.
He's an outcast. We understand. We're not casting him on all of you.
That's awesome.
But yeah, she was like making sure I understood this. I'm like, yes, trust me, you're not all Zlatan. Yeah. So, what else do you want to talk about?
Well, I guess we still really didn't touch much
Probably do the roster. We didn't actually do the roster, did we?
Um,
God,
we just
terrible.
kind of quickly chatted. I did okay with it. I think I got 12 guys right. Hold on, I can count them up. 2, 12. I got 12 of the 23 that I picked right.
Did you see that they initially didn't announce in their graphics Lyndon Gooch, and he had to make fun of them on Twitter, and then they had to rebuild the graphics?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I do like that he has a sense of humor. I mean, it's the other promising thing or the other exciting thing, I guess, is that there are guys who we were really excited about maybe a year or two ago who we've kind of forgotten exist again.
Julian
and then it's
Green.
like, oh, yeah, Julian Green maybe is one of them.
Yeah,
although
here it is.
I'm not excited to see him back in. Lyndon Gooch, I'm a little bit excited. Like,
yes.
He is one of them that I think in the right situation probably could thrive. I mean, here he was starting in the Premier League at 18. And yeah, things kind of didn't go his way, but he also was playing for a crappy team. So, is he only good enough to have made a crappy team? Or is it that he was 18 and he got in a crappy team and now he's just had breaks not go his way? I mean, like I said a little bit ago, I saw Frank Lampard play for West Ham when he was like 16 or 17 or 18, whatever the hell he was.
So young.
If things had, I don't know, not gone just right for him, would he have forever been at West Ham and been in a shit team and possibly gone down or something instead of moving on to Chelsea and making the name for himself that he did? Maybe it's that. I can't remember. A little of this was Bobby Warshaw when we talked to him, but there have been a few other things I've read recently about, what is it that certain players get where it's like breaks kind of go their way and things happen for them that maybe if it had happened to somebody else, you'd never have heard of. Maybe we'd never heard of Christian Pulisic. if certain breaks hadn't gone his way or certain breaks had gone somebody
Well,
else's
like
way.
he said, if he didn't have the ability to get an EU
Yeah.
passport, he would be maybe sitting on the bench in MLS somewhere, not getting a chance. So, I mean, yeah, I think everybody to a certain degree has a bit of luck, whether even if it's just not, they never blew out their knee, like
Yeah.
it's, there's
I
something
mean,
to it.
Clint Mathis was going to be like the future U.S. soccer before a few bad breaks went his way. And these days,
That's right.
It's like
Oh my
Clint
God.
who? Did you mean Dempsey? It's like
Clint
we forget that there was
Mathis.
another Clint before Clint Dempsey who was like going to be the next god of U.S. soccer and pretty much died on the vine after that.
So the team is goalkeepers Bono, Hamid, and Horvath. Your defenders are Cameron Carter-Vickers, Lehigh, Miazga, Olasunde, Palmer Brown, Robinson, Villafana, and Walker Zimmerman. If Instagram will work, your midfielders are Joe Corona, Lennon Gooch, Julian Green, Alejandro Guido, Weston McKinney, Keaton Parks, Christian Pulisic, Rubio Rubin, and Tim Weah. And your forwards are Nokakovic, your guy from Wisconsin,
Novakovic, yeah.
and Josh
Yeah.
Sargent. So,
yeah, I had Tim Weah as a forward instead of a midfielder, so that one's kind of a wash there, I guess.
Right,
But
it's the same.
At least, yeah, it is strange that we only have two guys listed as actual forwards.
Very German.
A little bit
to not have
I think
forwards
some
listed.
of this is well, and we don't really have a lot of wingers. I mean, I guess you could say Lyndon Gooch is. Maybe you say Julian Green is on this team. Certainly, I think his time attempting to play in the middle is over. But if he doesn't get some playing time, period, I'm not sure he has a lot of anything left. I don't know that I'd call Rubio Rubin an outright winger. Keaton Parks, maybe, but even he's at least by design supposed to be a central midfielder. In this case, when you've got Pulisic and McKinney in this roster, I assume you've got basically your 8 and your 10 right there.
Right.
Maybe you try and swap that out and put Pulisic on the wing because he's a winger at least on a club team, but is he in our team? I doubt it. Maybe this is the attempt to figure it out, though. I mean, the thing I like about this team is there are so many young, so many unknown options, but potentially promising options available. And so, to some extent, you could probably, I think you'd be more likely to pick a starting 11 than maybe a starting formation with the guys who are here.
Yeah, and you've got guys who, whether it's they've only been here a few times or they've never been here, you've got a lot of guys who are going to want to prove themselves too, which at least makes it somewhat interesting. You can see individual guys and what they might do. There might be a moment of brilliance that you get excited about. You can see how guys combine and maybe get some ideas. There'd be no big picture ideas that come out of this. Like it's just we're not there yet. We don't have a coach in place to even do that. But you might see some combinations of stuff that you like, and that's what you take away from. I don't care if we win. I honestly don't. It's like I just want to see some stuff.
Yeah, I hope this is more about creating a future rather than generating a final score. I know a lot of people are saying Keaton Parks is a central midfielder. It's not that I'm saying he's not. It's more that I'm looking at who's already here, and you got to say that McKinney and Pulisic are already two starters and already taken up 2 spots in central midfield, presumably. So where do you fit everybody else in? And I don't see a lot of guys who are just naturally going to go out wide. I mean, that was part of why I was predicting Paul Arriola when I named my 23, because there aren't a lot of guys who are just kind of naturally wide, fast players. So what are we going to do? Are we going to play fairly narrow and just try to pass the ball a lot? Are we going to just kind of pick a best 11 and go, you guys figure it out? I don't know.
Zach's talking
And
about the Nashville game. We got to mention that too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess we could have brought that up when we were talking about Cameron going to MLS
September
because
11th,
yeah,
we play Mexico in Nashville. We apparently played Brazil a few days before that in
yeah, the
at Red Bull,
ninth or something like that. Yeah,
or
yeah.
maybe at the Giant Stadium at MetLife. I don't know which stadium.
Um,
Yeah, but might make more sense with Brazil. But yeah,
I
I
I
could
don't
see
like
us
the
going to
idea
this
of
match.
playing Mexico on September 11th, based on the fact that they have chanted Osama at us. But um, I don't know. It is a game in Nashville, so I'm also not necessarily ready to like run right back into a U.S. Mexico match after the last one I was at. But it is in Nashville, and I do enjoy Nashville, and I do enjoy games in Nashville.
If
So
anything, there's Hattie B's.
we'll see.
Um,
Indeed.
but yeah, the thing that'll be interesting for that is, I mean, that's a city that got like what 55,000 for U.S. Panama, and one of the worst matches I've ever seen. Um, for Gold Cup, and then got even more for Tottenham the following week. Um, I don't see how when you throw Mexico on top of it, it's not a sellout
Yeah.
in an NFL
Especially, I mean,
stadium,
yeah, they're pushing hard. Like they are showing what they have for that coming MLS team. So
which will be really, I mean, a sellout in an NFL stadium with U.S. and Mexico, and presumably, I mean, it'll probably still be more Mexican fans because that's what they do, but
especially right
it
now,
might be 60-40 or something like that. So it'll be a fun atmosphere. That's for sure. Like
and
in
hopefully
Nashville,
the things around the match will be better than they were,
oh well,
say,
like
at the Gold Cup
couldn't
last
be
time.
worse with the Gold Cup in charge. But
Ugh.
um,
I mean, weather-wise, mid-September, it could still be just as hot as it was 4th of July.
yeah, it was so hot as I pointed out on this show. The metal dot at the top of this very hat cooked my skin like a little skillet on the top of my bald head. It was amazing. It was really insane. Like it, I don't recommend sitting in that level of heat. So yeah, I think that tentatively, unless life gets in the way, we'll probably go to that game. So
I think there's a good chance of that.
you can come see us in the
Indeed.
flesh if you too go to that.
USFanTV on tour.
We did. We've tried to do the show from games though, and it's with
Yeah,
sound.
that has not gone well.
We just have to
The
go
best we
somewhere.
did was the post game in Nashville. I think
In an ideal world, we'd like to just do the show from the parking lot. You guys can
that
come
would
over
be
and be on the
awesome.
show,
Yeah,
but it never works. So it always dies.
maintaining a signal in something like that when there's so many people on
Yeah,
a
it's
cell phone.
brutal.
Yeah,
You can't even send a text half the time. So, um, so yeah, we'll maybe see you there. Um, we should talk about Christian Pulisic. We alluded to this earlier. We check in with our boy every once in a while, and whether we think he's going to remain at Dortmund. And the answer is I don't know. Like I honestly don't know. And I don't want to see him move just to move. And as I pointed out to you, uh, last week or whatever, I sure as hell don't want him anywhere near Jose Mourinho.
oh God,
But
no.
no way. Like that's where I mean, if Jose Mourinho can't figure out what to do with dudes like De Bruyne and everybody else he's had, Mo Salah, everybody else he's had and sold, I don't want him near Christian Pulisic. But I mean, and I would always say on this show like 6 months ago or 8 months ago that a move from Borussia Dortmund to Liverpool seems like a drop, like a drop in quality, but one of those teams is in the Champions League final, and the other struggled to even make the Champions League top four in the Bundesliga. So maybe I'm wrong about that. Does he move to Anfield? Does he move somewhere else? And I mean, does he need to? Is now the time with Dortmund in disarray? Or is Dortmund going to come right back and do what they've always done and, you know, develop talent and then sell them? I don't know. I honestly don't know if now is the time he should. Not only will he, but is now the time he should. Um,
I still like the idea that he will be at Dortmund. And, you know, I it's so hard for me to not say Favre when I see the name, but Favre as their new coach may actually be a good thing for him. Uh,
You have to
he
say
does.
Favre because you're from Wisconsin, I think.
It is hard for me to look at that name and not say Favre after so
Favre.
many years of it. Um, but
The old dong slinger.
it it actually could be a good thing for him, and it may end up making him a permanent wing player. Uh, not to say that he wasn't kind of already, but I think this could be a long term good a positive move for him. So in that regard, there's promise to this. I don't think Stoger was a good manager for him, and maybe that's partially because he didn't turn out to be that good for Dortmund on the whole. But I do think there are positives to take away from this. So maybe that means that he doesn't need to move away. If Stoger was going to stay, I think probably yeah he'd be gone. And it's unfortunate because of the places that the rumors sound most likely for him to go, it's probably Liverpool, Spurs, or United. And
I have a hard
I
time
don't want to
dealing
see
with.
any of those.
Well, okay, it United would be. I mean, he'd make a ton of money and he'd be playing for one of the biggest teams in the world. But I don't want him there with Jose
But
Mourinho.
Mourinho destroys
Right.
players.
Klopp would do wonders with him, I think, and I would be totally comfortable with him going to Liverpool. Except for
My concern is where does he fit into that lineup? Now,
he's gonna have to work for it. Like it's
yeah,
not, yeah.
yeah.
And then Spurs, kind of the same thing. I think he'd be amazing on Tottenham. I hate to say it, um, as much as I mean, it would be really difficult for me to even cheer for him at that point.
I mean, I've
But
never heard of the team you're talking about, but it does sound like someplace where he would fit. And the nice thing about a team like you're describing is that they can't really seem to hold on to their top players anyway. So he would probably naturally become one of the best players they have because
before he moves to Real Madrid,
maybe,
yeah,
yeah. Um,
so there's the natural progression. He wouldn't be able to understand his forward. And the guy speaks multiple languages, but he wouldn't be obviously English being his first, but he still wouldn't be able to understand the guy playing forward for his team, which would be trouble. Um,
well, part of it is that that guy can't close his mouth.
That's true. That's true. That's a
It
fact
helps
about
to
him.
it helps to form words if you actually close your mouth at times. Don't
My
just stand
goal. My goal.
there.
Um. So yeah, I don't. I've said before. Honestly, he seems like a really awesome replacement for Arjen Robben when he finally leaves Bayern, which he signed another 1 year deal. Um, so, and I know that Dortmund fans hate to see their guys continue to get stolen by Bayern, but um, I think he'd really do well at Bayern. So that would not, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but it seems like I haven't heard that rumor in a while. It's been nothing but Premier League. And I
Yeah.
mean, who knows? I mean, it seems like a, a U.S. star, you know, going to the biggest English speaking league in the world maybe makes sense from a marketing standpoint. And I could see where the teams would be willing to overpay because he is, um, the star of a gigantic country that is, kind of emerging as a fan of the sport. But I don't know that I really want him to move at all, honestly. And I don't know. It's just such a delicate thing. He's only 19 still. I don't want him to get ruined. I'm still scared about it. But just today I think it was today, the news conference that the Bundesliga is opening an office in New York, which the Bundesliga and Bayern kind of led the way with this, but the Bundesliga is doing like everything right as far as it taking over in the U.S. Um, the giant backdrop. I can't remember if it was Lewandowski or Muller, but it was one of the Bayern dudes, one of those two, and then Pulisic on the like up there with whichever guy it was, one of the best players in that league and certainly in the world. And it still blows my mind that he's compared to some of them, and his numbers don't really justify it totally yet. But I think it could happen. So I just don't know. I don't I don't know that I want him to move yet.
I think that's fair.
That's fair. Have we covered it tonight? I mean, we normally would have TJ go on about pro rel or something, or just say he normally just says something to upset people and then goes and feeds his baby via the teat. But
USFanT. People are calling for our starting 11.
oh God, I have no idea, honestly.
I will.
I'll give you McKinney and Pulisic. Hopefully, Josh
Yeah.
Sargent, Tim Weah.
Um, yeah, I will say I'm hoping for Hamid in goal.
Yeah.
Um, my back four I'm going with would be Carter Vickers and Miazga in the center, and then I'm gonna say just because what the hell I want to see some guys get their first caps, Anthony Robinson and Matt Olasunde as
Yeah.
your
Why not? Why not?
yeah as your fullbacks. In the middle, I'm a little torn because, like I said, I was trying to figure out what to do about wings here. Um, I kind of looked at it as I wanted to see McKinney and Pulisic in the center. Um, Once I saw this, I thought like Lyndon Gooch maybe to one of the wings. I'll say put him on the left. I don't know who to put on the right. I thought about either moving way in there or perhaps putting Keaton Parks towards the middle and moving
And then
Pulisic
moving
out
Pulisic out
wide.
wide. Yeah.
That's maybe my that's kind of what I hope for. But at the same time, I need to see more of Keaton Parks to have an idea. Like, I don't know.
Like I
Do I
said
feel
last
like
week,
that's
I've
enough to?
literally never seen him play a game. I've
I've
only
never seen
seen
anything
YouTube clips of
live.
the guy.
Yeah.
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 So I'm really interested. I really hope he plays because I'm really interested to see what he can do.
At forwards, I had hoped for like Weah and Josh Sargent. Um, Maybe like I would have said Novakovic and Sargent, but if we only have two forwards anyway, I don't want to see both of them out there and then who the hell do we stick in? Or it means Tim Weah doesn't get in until like the 80th minute or something. I don't want that to happen either. So I'm torn on that one. Um, so I'm a little stuck on where to go with my the last of my spots. My hope is we'll see something like Gooch to the left, McKinney at the base, Keaton Parks maybe at the top, and I guess Wildest Dreams we'll say, and Pulisic to the right, almost like a diamond kind of midfield, and then we'd see something like Tim Weah and Josh Sargent up top,
Okay.
with then Novakovic able to come in late in the game and hopefully get a goal as well. So much of this to me is just throw the young guys out, see what the hell they can do. I don't care if they don't yet know how to work together. Like I mean, Anthony Robinson and Matt Olasunde, whatever. Like I don't care that you guys haven't played
Yeah.
for us before. Just go out and let's see what happens. This
Jeremy
is a
says
throwaway game.
Jeremy says Bolivia's bringing a joke roster. What we'll even learn, like I said earlier, it's to me, you learn nothing from a big picture standpoint. Nothing. The only thing you might learn is how well certain guys combine. There might be some ideas you get with seeing certain guys combine, and just seeing what certain, I mean, from a fan standpoint, seeing what certain like Keaton Parks, a dude like that can do. I don't watch the Portuguese league, so I don't see him. So I'm, you hear stories and you see clips, and I'm excited to see what he can do. So, but from a big picture standpoint, nothing. You learn nothing. There's absolutely nothing to take away from this. We don't have a coach. We don't know what we're doing. We don't have an idea of what we want to work toward. It's all about individuals and how they combine with one another. So that's it. And that's why at the start of the show we talked about how excited we are, and Chris said he's like a 4 out of a 10. Yeah, I mean it's not a meaningless game in the sense that we might get to see some stuff that we find interesting, but other than that, it is.
I
So
mean, hey, if we put out all young guys and they come out and just like play the ball across the floor the entire game and we're just passing, we have 300 passes in the game or something and we win 3-0,
That would be fun.
I may be over the moon after this because
Yeah.
it's like,
Goals.
oh, holy shit, we really do have a possible future here. That said, if we trot out all young guys and they get blown out of the water 5-0, but we see some positive things,
Then yes.
you
Yes.
know what? It may not be as interesting to talk about afterwards on here, but I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, we're not going to get on here and rant and rave and say we're going to miss the next World Cup because if we lose
Yeah.
this game, it, it doesn't matter. We're not to the point where we even really need to worry about it yet. Let's just kind of enjoy it. So, as far as when we're going to do the show, since I learned that the game was Monday and not Tuesday, I don't know. Will we have a post game? Maybe, but you and I haven't talked
Probably.
about this off air yet, so I don't know that we need to be settling it on air, but we'll probably do something. So the game's also early, so
Yeah. It's only like 6 o'clock or something.
I don't know that we're gonna have a show for you right after. It might have to wait till after 9, but I have children I got to get put to bed before I can talk to you people. So I think we've covered it. Have we covered it?
I think so.
All right. This is US Fan TV. We have things that you can go support us. You could follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Give us a like there. Instagram. Chris has been putting up some interesting things on Instagram.
Hashtag Pulisic likes tats.
TJ's breasts. We have a YouTube channel called US Fan TV. How
Funny
do
enough.
I know that? How do you know that? You're watching it right now.
Boom.
So what you're gonna do if you haven't done it already, and I suspect most of the guys, if
What
you're
you gonna
watching
do?
this show,
Come for you.
you probably have subscribed already. But if you haven't, go ahead and give us a subscribe. Click the button. We like you when you do that. And if you've already done that, and I know from the names here, most of you already have. Thank you. You guys are the best. Yeah, that's what I know. Chris, do you have any final words?
Absolutely nothing. Go bother people, tell them to be our sponsors or something. You guys are done. Thanks, everybody. You're done.
You're done. Adios.